Welcome to episode 9 of Turn It On. Today on the program, my good friend Elvio Fernandes, keyboardist, backing vocalist, guitarist, producer, and songwriter for the band Daughtry is here. Let's do the show.
Coming to you from Music City,
Nashville, Tennessee,
the definitive arts and entertainment podcast.
Happy 2016, everybody. Welcome to Turn It On. My name is Michael J. This is my show. Thank you so much for joining me. If you're first-time listeners, welcome. And if you've checked out a show or two before this, then welcome back. I hope you all had a great holiday. I'm actually recording this intro just shy of January 1st, but we'll pretend for the sake of argument that we've already barreled our way into the new year. I'm going on the road with country artist Chuck Wicks for a gig on New Year's Eve, which logistically would make it nearly impossible for me to get this show up on or around the first of the year to keep up with the schedule that I've set for myself. So here we are. I'm headed to Kansas City for New Year's Eve, to the scene of the crime, so to speak. And obviously I need to explain this. I first moved to Nashville almost 3 years ago, and within the first month, I was lucky enough to land my first paying gig as a sideman here with Chuck Wicks. I was asked to learn around 17 songs in roughly 10 days, after which time I hopped on a tour bus with Chuck and his band, and we played the same venue where I'll be ringing in the new year this year. And it was not only my first paying gig, but it was my first time on a real honest-to-goodness tour bus. Now, I've been playing live in venues of all sizes to crowds from like 3 to 4 people to over 50,000 since 1987, so I'm no stranger to the ins and outs of touring and performing. However, Chuck's bassist at the time somehow got it out of me within the first 5 minutes on the bus that I'd never traveled on a real tour bus before. So he decided to inform the rest of the band and made a big show of it, calling me rookie and all sorts of other choice things. And at this point, I knew it was no use trying to explain myself or present my resume. So I laughed it off and played along. And unbeknownst to me, a plan to sort of haze me was set in motion with the other guys in the band. We had a quick one-time rehearsal at about 5 p.m. And left Nashville at around 11 p.m. the night before the gig, loaded into the venue in Kansas City early the next morning, and had most of the day to hang out and wait around till we had to play. So around an hour before the gig, Peter, the bassist, came on the bus with a giant bottle of Jack Daniels and said something along the lines of, "Your ass is mine," or "I'll get you," and I don't know, something like that. And Chuck was kind enough to pull me aside and tell me that he thought I did a great job at rehearsal the night before and suggested we have one drink right before getting up on stage. And at that point in time, it sounded like a great idea because my head was still swimming with a set full of songs that I really hadn't lived with for very long at this point. And, you know, being my first gig, I was really nervous about doing my best and nailing it. So a small drink to calm the nerves was just the medicine I needed. So we hit the stage running, and the gig was going really smoothly until about 3/4 of the way in. Now, you've probably all seen performers use in-ear monitors at this point. Everybody does. I much prefer the standard old-school floor monitors, but I kind of adapt to every gig that I do and use whatever the other guys in the band are using just to keep things simple and keep it cohesive. Now, all bands that use an in-ear system generally have a microphone on stage somewhere that only the band and the crew can hear. This allows us to communicate sort of within the band for anything from on-the-spot set list changes or whatever else you can think of. It helps keep the show tight and maintains, you know, the air of mystery that all bands like to have. And it's typically called the bitch mic for reasons I won't go into. You can use your imagination on that one. Anyway, about halfway through the show, I hear a voice in my in-ear monitor saying, "Put your fucking guitar down and come to the front of the stage." And when I looked up, it was Chuck on the bitch mic looking directly at me with a bottle of Jack Daniels in his hand and an evil smile on his face. So we were in the middle of this song called Bar Love, which has a call and response thing in the chorus that's something like, "Let's do a shot," and then he gets the crowd to yell "shot." So you get the idea. So the band is doing a breakdown kind of thing, and Chuck proceeds to tell the audience, "This is Michael, our new guy. It's his first gig with us. It's his first time on a tour bus, so we're going to make him drink a little." So obviously the crowd goes nuts, and then he says, each time I sing, let's do a shot, you scream shot, and Michael's going to drink from this bottle of Jack for 3 seconds, and our drummer's going to count it off. So we did this about 3 to 4 times, and the drummer is purposely slowing down during my swigs. And I'll tell you, there were several really intimidating-looking, huge dudes with cowboy hats on right up front that were all really impressed with me after about the 3rd chug that I did, and were slapping me high fives and fist bumping me and stuff. Anyway, I now was on my way to feeling no pain, and we still had about 5 songs left in the set. So, believe it or not, Brett Eldridge and his band were in the audience that night, and we ended up doing an impromptu version of The Joker by Steve Miller with him, sharing vocals on a mic and everything. And I made it through the show just fine. Now, granted, I was slightly drunk by the time we finished, but it was all in good fun. And what I didn't know was that Chuck's bassist, Pete, wasn't really finished with me. And while Chuck was doing his meet and greet with the fans, Pete was asking some of the female fans to buy me shots, and so more shots made their way to me. And to make a long story short, the next day wasn't so much fun, and it marks the very last time I had a hangover that bad for that long. I was sufficiently hazed, though, and welcomed into the Nashville musician community. And to this day, each time I randomly run into any of the guys that were on the gig that night, they always greet me with a big hug and a smile and a, "Hey man, remember that night in Kansas City?" So, and I always say no. So the hangover was worth it, and I'm going to avoid a repeat performance this New Year's Eve. There's going to be celebrating, but in a much more moderate way this time out. So anyway, my guest today is Elvio Fernandes of the band Daughtry. Elvio's been a good friend of mine for many years now, and to be honest, I've kind of had a strange connection to Chris Daughtry myself since the minute he was on American Idol for the very first time, the actual minute. I was playing an acoustic gig in Gainesville, Florida, where I was living at the time, and suddenly my phone started kind of blowing up with messages and a bunch of blurry pictures of people's televisions basically saying, "Oh my God, there's a guy on American Idol that looks and sounds just like you." It was crazy. So since that night, I've always kind of gotten from people that they think I look a little like Chris. And it's come from friends and strangers, random people in bars. Even when I was home in New York this past couple weeks, I heard somebody say, "Oh, look, there's Chris Daughtry." So, in fact, even Chuck Wicks only recently started calling me by my name. Before this, it was always, like, "Hey, Daughtry, you ready for the show?" and that kind of thing. He's even introduced me as Chris Daughtry on stage in front of thousands of people. So I've had kind of no choice but to have a sense of humor about it because, honestly, I really never thought we looked that much alike. Now, I will tell you that Chris and I have hung out on a couple occasions now through the years, thanks to Elvio, and we even had a discussion about our respective appearances, and he doesn't think we look like each other either, so we've had a good laugh about it. But we're the same height, we're both bald, and we've both experimented with various forms of facial art through the years. We're also both singers, and our onstage mannerisms are a little similar, but that's kind of where it all ends. I don't know. Maybe we could be distant cousins or something. I don't know. Chris and the rest of the Daughtry guys have always been incredibly gracious, welcoming, kind, and very sweet to me. And they're one of the most talented bands that you'll ever see live. So it's been amazing to watch my good friend join their ranks and kind of blossom into a highly respected and sought-after seasoned professional in the world of live performance, songwriting, and production. I took a trip home for Christmas to my hometown of Rochester, New York to see my family for the holidays, and met up with Elvio in his home studio to have a little chat, and it was a blast catching up with him. There's a lot of laughter in this episode, and hopefully that won't annoy you. Elvio is one of the funniest people I know, and it's really impossible for me to keep my composure once he kind of gets rolling, so bear with that. And it was really early in the morning, too, so we were both a little slap happy. So anyway, Elvio's got some incredible stories, and it's a great talk, and I could not be more proud of my friend. So sit back, relax, and enjoy my conversation with my good friend Elvio. We're going. Yeah, Are
you serious?
I just started.
Holy crap.
I just started. That way it gets comfortable. You know what I mean?
All right, well, let me get comfortable.
It's not a. You adjust yourself.
I need to adjust myself.
I don't. Like I said, I don't like to make this. It's not.
I'm going to laugh the whole time.
Good. You should. It's not, yeah. So how you been?
So, Mike, what brings you to my house?
What brings me to your house?
Yeah.
I came here to see this, to explore the studio space, the vibes.
Yeah, this is where we do our work.
This is
There's a lot. Well, it's me and a couple guys sometimes, but mostly just me.
Are you doing a lot of work out here?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah. That's why I built it, was because I didn't have a space to really. We had a spare bedroom upstairs that I was working out of.
Yeah.
And that doesn't work really well when the master bedroom's right next door and the kids are trying to sleep. And you're up there like, what if we do this? Like, no, go to G minor. And then it gets really loud, and then, wife's trying to sleep.
Yeah.
So that didn't work out well.
Yeah,
So I
great.
needed a space.
Yeah, there you go.
But what's funny is well, you do your thing, and then we'll get
Well,
into
I'm not really doing
stories.
a thing. This is the thing. This is what it is. You look like you're on a radio show. It's funny. I want to let you be uncomfortable for about 10 minutes, and then I'll just let you
Ladies
squirm.
and gentlemen, you know the band Daughtry.
Just let you squirm
Why do
over
radio
there.
guys talk like that?
I don't know. We're coming back, and we're back.
I guess it's called puking.
Yes. Is it really? Yeah.
I swear to God.
So how many morning radio shows have you done where there's those
God.
guys?
Yeah, Johnny Pukes is everywhere. So he's like every DJ. He's like, so tell us, Daughtry, what's it like to be on the road? And who's this guy? Your keyboard player? Like, why are you talking like that? Why can't we just be cool and talk normally? I don't get it.
Yeah.
Do they talk like that at home? I don't. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, well, probably. You never know. Hi, honey.
I know.
What's for breakfast, dear?
Jesus, this casserole's fantastic. Like, that's not cool.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't get it. I don't know. The news people do it too, like the weatherman and all those people.
Yeah.
They have that weird,
Yeah.
purposely corny, like, I tell you, it's a hot one out there, isn't it, Jim? And then they get off the set and they're like, yo, dude, you want to go get some beers? You know what I'm saying? Like, it's weird. I don't know why. Is there a law that you have to talk like that?
Probably, yeah.
I don't know.
That's what they teach you. The first thing they teach you at, radio class 101. So what have you been up to, man? Like, what's been going on? Tell me what's been going on.
Making all noises.
I don't do it. It's fine.
What's been going on? Well, for the last it'll be 4 years in February.
Oh, since you've been in the band. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah,
That's right.
Yeah. So I left. I had a local band here that did well, regionally, I guess, and then joined Daughtry in February of 2012.
Let's go back. I know a little bit about it, but how did that whole thing, like, even going back, I know you did some work with, I'm forgetting the guy's name now. Why?
Ace Young?
Ace Young.
Yeah.
That's right. Why did that just skip out of my head? But is that what led to that's what led to this whole thing?
Absolutely. It actually goes back to when Uncle Plum, which was the band that I had here locally, we did an all-original CD, and somehow it got in the hands of, actually not somehow, a local guitar player named Mark Provenzano took the CD, sent it to his buddy in L.A., and his buddy, I have to wipe my nose, it's a little chilly, his buddy at the time was working with Brian McKnight, and Brian McKnight heard the CD and was like, I want to meet this kid. So he flew me out to his studio in Burbank. And I met with Brian McKnight, and at the time, I walked in the studio, and Ace was working with Brian.
Okay.
So Ace was in the booth singing something, and I was like, who is this kid? He's great. And, like, he was killing it.
Right.
And they're like, oh, that's Ace. And I was like, no, really, what's his name? Like, Ace. I'm like, listen, that's like a nickname.
It's not a name, right?
It's his real name, which is kind of weird. But
Is that his real name?
That's his real name.
That's his real name, Ace. Okay.
Yep.
Lucky him.
I know.
That kid is like born
It's
to.
a lot to live up
That kid
to,
is
though.
like born to rule the world.
It's a lot to live up to.
Yeah. It's
What's
a
your
lot
name?
to live up
Ace.
to.
You better be badass, like amazing. If your name's Ace.
Lucky for him, he was.
Yeah, exactly. Did all right.
Okay.
But me and Ace hit it off in the studio. We ended up writing a song, a country tune for this other girl that Brian was working with. Crazy story. But we ended up becoming good friends.
Right.
Ace came to Rochester. This is well before American Idol.
Sure.
So he came to Rochester a couple times and stayed with me for a couple weeks at a time, and we would record and produce and all that stuff. And then, one day he was like, I'm going to try out for this show, American Idol. And I was like, yeah, do it, dude. What do you got to lose? And that show had just started. So it was big, huge. If you got on that show, if you finished in the top 10, something's happening.
What season was that he was in? Was it
5. I think it was season 5.
It was brand new.
Yeah, it was pretty new. So
Now they're in season 47.
Yeah, and if you finish in the top 20, you may get a gig at a local, VW, Did I say VW?
VW.
I meant to say, like, what are the places where all, like, the vets hang out?
Oh God,
The something W.
Knights of Columbus or whatever.
Like am I talking about? Whatever. Forget
it's too early.
It's tough to get a gig these days, even if you're on American Idol. That's the point that I was trying to make.
Coffee's not kicking in yet.
No, it's not. It's early.
A VA. It's like a VA hospital.
I just visited one of those. What was I saying? Oh, so yeah. So that obviously the impact and the appeal of that show it's not what it used to be.
No, right, sure.
You know, I couldn't even tell you.
Well, there's so much shit to wade through now. You got, the voice, you got the...
We're allowed to swear. Sweet.
Oh, you can say whatever the fuck you want. I don't care. That's good. Yeah. Awesome. Are we allowed to swear?
I don't know. Who's regulating these things.
This is the internet, Elvio.
Sweet.
You can say fuck, shit.
Oh, poop. No, I'm just kidding. So, I couldn't even tell you who won the last 5 or 6 idols. I just don't, you know what I mean? Like, it just doesn't... There's so much. Philip Phillips won one in there somewhere recently.
Philip Phillips, yeah, he was in there
a few years ago.
I liked him.
Yeah,
I like that.
So anyway, Ace ends up telling me he's going to try out for the show, and I'm like, dude, you should. Why not? You got nothing to lose. So not only does he try out, but he's like an early on favorite. Like he can't tell me how when they're trying out, they can't tell you what's going on.
Right.
But he's like, hey, I can't tell you anything, but go to the store and get People magazine. I was like, okay. So me and my wife go to the store, we get People magazine, and it's Paula Abdul talking about who she thinks is going to win it, the whole thing, and it's this kid Ace Young. And I was like, yeah, Jess, I think he's advancing. I think he's going to make it past the Hollywood round.
Right.
So, anyways, so while they were on the show, Ace and Chris became really good friends.
Okay, yeah.
And Ace would talk to Chris about me and, my friend from Rochester.
Sure.
I've been writing with him, and he played some stuff that we had done.
Yeah.
And Chris was... according to Ace, was impressed, and he was like, it's cool, this and that. So he always knew who I was. And then when they finish the show, they do the Idol tour.
Yeah.
So I went to probably 5 or 6 of those shows just kind of to support Ace. And I went to the one in Denver to meet his family and all this stuff. And so I got to meet Chris and hang out with Chris a lot.
Right.
And it was just kind of a, casual texting kind of friendship after that.
Yeah.
And Daughtry blew up. That first record sold like 8 million copies.
Right. Yeah,
so I would send him texts every once in a while. Hey, man, congratulations. And he always responded. Oh, cool. Thanks, dude. Blah, blah, blah. How you doing? And so we had that kind of thing going on. And then I would say 2011, me, Ace, and a local friend of mine here, Greg Wiktorski, we wrote this song that was... we got finished with it, and we were like, oh my God, this sounds like a Daughtry track.
Right.
We should send it to him. So we sent it to Chris, and Chris ends up calling me on my cell phone, and he's like, dude, where'd you do this? And I was like, in Rochester here? He's like, are you serious? I'm like, yeah. He's like, man, it sounds great. I like it. I'm going to play for my producer, see what happens. So we were like, holy crap, this is awesome. You know? That song ended up not doing anything, but what it did do was that it started kind of a working relationship with me and Chris.
Kind of opened the doors for that to happen, yeah.
And so I said to Chris, I go, hey, listen, if you have any ideas laying around that you're not going to do anything with, send me something. I go, let's work on something. He's like, dude, I have one. He goes, it's called Crazy, and I have a verse melody that I really like and a chorus that I kind of like, but I'm not really sure. Run with it. I was like, okay. So he sent me the song, and I ended up keeping his chorus melody, but I changed the entire chord progression to something that was not so typical.
Right.
And I don't mean typical in a negative way, like, come on, Chris, you can come up with something better than that.
Right.
But, you as a writer, you get into these, you have your go-to chord progressions that you like, and you get into a groove, and I was coming from a whole different place. So I changed the chord progression, and I wrote a bridge, and changed some of the chords in the chorus, and I sent it back to him. And he's like, dude, I love this. I'm going to send it to my producer again. I was like, oh, I've heard this before. But, But he sent it to him, and they ended up cutting the song, and it ended up being on the third album, which was called Break the Spell.
You fought, though, for a long time to try to get that on, I remember talking to you, and you were like, yeah, man, I've had to jump through so many hoops, and I've had to deal with this person and that person, and they don't want it on the record because I'm not, they don't have a piece of it, blah, blah, blah.
Well,
am I getting that right, or is that...
Kind of. I think that happened more so on the first song that he and I wrote than when I said nothing ended up happening with that.
Okay.
But, I mean, look, you have a band of 5 guys.
Sure.
They're brothers.
Right.
And
you're the outsider.
I am the outsider.
Yeah, right.
And everybody in that band is trying to get a song on a record. They're all fighting to provide for their families just like I was.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Right, yeah.
Crazy was, I mean, I never knew if it was going to make the record, but Chris always loved it.
Uh-huh.
And I knew that at least he had my back, you know?
Yeah.
And so I remember the day I was a real estate agent during the day. That was my day gig. And I was sitting in the office and having a crappy day. And Chris sends me a text. He's like, we just picked all the tracks for the new record with, I just sat down with management and A&R and the label and this and that. And I was like, oh boy, here we go.
Right.
You know, I was preparing myself for, sorry, dude, it didn't make the record.
Sure.
And all of a sudden he writes back in like all caps, it made it, exclamation point. I was like, oh my God. You know, if everything would have ended there, I would have been thrilled.
Sure.
I got a song on a major release.
Dude.
You know what I mean?
Well, I remember the day that happened. I remember because you called me and it was, you're getting pretty emotional. You were like, can't believe it. And I think you told me like that he'd written with everybody from like Rob Thomas
he wrote with Rob Thomas,
like other
Richard
people.
Marx. He wrote with like some very, very, he wrote with Rivers from Weezer. I mean, like all these people that I've looked up to. You know? And none of those songs made the record. Right. And here's some schmuck from Rochester that, you know.
Yeah.
You know.
I remember I was like through the roof for you too.
No,
I was like so proud. I was just like, holy shit, this is great. And then when the record came out, it was like, you know, I was like, I just listened to that track on repeat kind of over and over. It was like, that's my boy.
It was surreal because, you know, as a songwriter, you know, you get one song on a major label release. Like to me, I was like, party's over. I'm good.
Well,
like, if I have to work in a factory the rest of my life, I just accomplished something I never ever would have thought I would have accomplished. You know.
Well, then the doors start to open for you too, because then you have it's on your resume. It's a big
You know what? Actually, was almost as surreal as that is, and I think it was you. It was you. You sent me a picture of Rolling Stone magazine's review.
I did, yeah.
And although they shit all over the record, which we expected they would do,
right?
They that's what they do.
Well, the standout track was.
They also shit all over Led Zeppelin. We know how that worked out. So, but it said standout track, and I was like, oh my God, holy crap, this is cool.
Yeah.
So,
Well, I remember seeing that too, and I was like, fuck those guys, you know, because it's like, but yeah.
Very rarely are they going to support anything that comes off of a reality show.
Sure. I mean, that's just, right. Because they're Rolling Stone, because they're too cool for school. Yeah.
So that started that kind of started a even more serious working relationship, and then fast forward to I think it was I want to say November of 2011 maybe. I get a call. I was showing a house to some young kids, like their first house, and my phone rings. It's sitting there on the counter in big letters. This is Chris Daughtry, and they're like, "No way!" And I'm like, I got to take this. They're like, no, don't, go ahead, take it. So he calls me and he's like, listen, we're getting ready to tour on this new album, and I'm thinking of adding like a utility guy, like to do harmonies and acoustic and keyboards, and are you know anybody? And I was like, that's really funny, dude. He's like, well, that's why I'm calling you. And I was like, yeah, and this is God's honest truth. I said, dude, as much as I'd love to, I can't. I go, I have a life here. Yeah. I have a wife and kids, and I have a band here and a day job. Like, I have a good life here. I don't think I can just go on the road and leave all of this. You know?
Yeah.
I don't think it's practical. And he's like, no, I get it. Well, if you think anybody or whatever, let me know. So I went home, and we're having dinner, and I said to my wife, I go, you're not going to believe who called me today. She's like, who? I was like, Chris Daughtry. She's like, really? She said, what'd he say? And I was like, what? He wants me to go on tour with him. And I just kind of like started laughing it off.
Sure.
And she's like, and what'd you say? I said, no, I can't. How am I going to do this?
Right.
And she's like, hold on, let me get this straight. She's like, so you've been playing in these shitholes since you were, 20 years old, and spending hours in the studio doing this and that for that chance to possibly do it for a living?
Yeah.
And you just got the call and said no? Yeah. And I was like, yeah. She's like, you call him back and you tell him that you will be there whenever he needs you to be there, and we have enough family here. We'll figure it out. Don't worry about us. And I was just like, oh my God, she's the coolest chick ever.
Well, I think you won the lottery there, because that's so rare, man. It's,
So that's it. So once I had her blessing, I called him back and I was like, dude, I'm in. I go, I'll do it. Now, in my mind, I know I can do it.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, I don't know that I could do it, but I'm pretty confident that I could probably do a decent enough job for them.
Yeah.
They don't know anything about me.
Oh, right.
The only thing Chris knows about me is that I wrote a song that was kind of cool with them, and it ended up on the record.
Yeah.
But you've also got 5 other guys in the band who are like, we don't need anybody else.
Oh, the microscope's on you big time at this point, probably.
Like, what are we doing now? Here's what they're thinking at the time. One more guy to get a piece of our money,
right?
To you know, get in the way,
yeah.
And they didn't feel like they needed it at the time. Now, I thought they did need it at the time.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm just, I watched live performances on TV.
Sure.
I've been to their concerts. I'd seen them 4 or 5 times in concert and hung out with them, and they didn't really have a consistent vocalist in the band to do.
They didn't have a second singer, really.
Yeah, they had guys. I mean, there's guys that like our lead guitar player Josh Steele. He's a great singer.
Yeah,
he's got a unique voice. He's a lead singer. He came from just like I did. I was a lead singer in my band before Daughtry.
Right.
He was a lead singer in his band, but there's certain voices that I think work better for harmonies and blending than others. You know what I mean? And he did a good job, but I was confident in my ability to blend with Chris I'd been singing harmony for years. Me and John Akers, buddy of ours, I used to do a duo with him, and I love harmony. And I love you and I have played together. And I love doing stuff like that. So they didn't want me around. They didn't want me to be there, and that was uncomfortable at first because I could sense it.
Yeah.
So,
well, you're coming as the new guy.
Totally.
And they're like a gang already, and you're
totally. It's not a comforting feeling, but at the same time, I was like, look, I got a family I got to provide for. I got to do a good job.
Sure.
And so I went and rehearsed with them in North Carolina, and rehearsals at that level are not like rehearsals at
Oh, right, yeah.
It's there's a monitor engineer, front of house.
No, you got a whole crew there.
It's crazy.
Yeah,
I was like, whoa. So I'll never forget the first rehearsal. And I had done my homework. I made sure I was going to learn every harmony on every record.
Yeah, I remember that too.
They gave me a list of songs.
I remember you telling me that you went and went to a couple shows and took notes, which is the pro thing to do.
So they were playing in Toronto before I was scheduled to leave to go rehearse with them. Mm-hmm. So I went and I had my iPhone and I just opened up a notepad and that little note app that was on there, and every song they did, I was like, oh. Missing second verse harmonies, no harmonies in the bridge, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
Keyboards, there's no strings here. Like, I was taking notes on every song.
Yeah.
So I came back home and I just started, doing my homework, and I showed up to rehearsal. I was prepared, And so I remember Chris was like, it was like, you could hear a pin drop. It was so awkward. I'm in the back behind the drums with the keyboard set up, and I had to bring my own keyboard.
Oh, really?
It was weird.
So,
it was like... it was really one of those things where there was one person in the room that wanted me there, and that was Chris, and that was it.
And that was it, yeah.
So I was just like, you know what, dude? That's their issue. It's not your issue. Just do what you got to do. First song, he's like, what do you want to start with? And he looked at me. He's like, what do you want to start with? And I was like, it's up to you, bro. Anything you want. He's like, let's do It's Not Over. I'm like, okay. He picked the song with the highest, highest ridiculous harmony, but I got it. I'm going to do it.
Right.
So there's no keyboards in that song. So he was like, so what do you want to play in this song? And I was like, well, there's no keyboards. I go, I could play acoustic. And he's like, have you been working on it? I was like, well, not really. I just give me an acoustic. I think I'll be okay.
Right.
So he gives me an acoustic, and I played it fine. It's not a difficult song to play. But when we got to that first chorus, that was the moment.
Yeah, right.
That's the moment where they're all like, all right, let's see what this kid's got. Because that's the biggest harmony on the song.
Right.
And it came, and I just crushed it.
Yeah.
And he stops the band. He's like, stop. And I'm like, oh, no, what'd I do? And he looked at the rest of the guys. He's like, I dare you guys to say that doesn't sound incredible. Like, basically going to bat for me.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, my God, cool.
Right.
So kind of from that point on, as the rehearsal went on, I showed them that I would be value added.
Right, right.
It's still, but I mean... Look, they've become my second family. I love those guys. We're like brothers, all of us. It's been 4 years now.
Yeah.
But there's still times where I somewhat kind of still feel like the new guy and the outsider. And I get it. They were there day one when there was no money to be made.
Right.
And it was brand new. They were playing clubs.
Yeah.
And that's pretty much the story. But, there's no, as far as issues in regards to what our roles are and do we need a guy like that? I mean, that doesn't happen anymore.
Right.
I mean, they get it, and it's cool. And it's evolved into something where, there's a lot of times where Chris and I play as a duo.
Yeah, and that's killer. Duo. Well, it's funny because I think I talked to you when I saw the show at the Ryman in Nashville, and I think I commented to you, Andy, and you guys you have a new drummer now too, right?
Yes. I have a few.
It just looked like you guys were having a lot of fun on stage, and that wasn't the case. Like the first time I saw Daughtry, I think you had hooked me up with. You hooked me up with him to leave tickets at Will Call.
Yep.
And when he
was in Florida, right?
When they played in Gainesville, yeah. And I went to the show and I went backstage and said hi, and it was the vibe was real serious and real like we're out here to rock your faces off, and it was cool, but it was very it didn't look like there wasn't a whole lot of enjoyment. It just very much like we're here to do a job, we're gonna rock, but
that's been the biggest change.
Well, it was a real loose vibe, and man, it made all the difference in the show for me anyway. Personally, I mean, maybe other people might not notice, but yeah. I
mean, it's stressful. When in the beginning, it was very stressful. Just kind of like, you put this wall up between you and the audience, and it's just like, you're taking it so serious. And I always have this saying that I use all the time, and I believe it. I go, it's just music. We're not curing AIDS or cancer. Yeah. It's just music.
Yeah.
And slowly but surely, and I think that I mean that's always been my approach, even with Uncle Plum. I mean, we joked around all the time. It was my whole thing is let's entertain these people, whether it means making them. I'd like to make them laugh, and then hopefully impress them musically also.
Right.
And slowly but surely, that now has become our vibe in Daughtry.
Is that because Chris has loosened up a little bit, you think? Or
he's loosened up, and he's definitely loosened up. And there's a ton of pressure on somebody like him.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely, yeah.
But I feel like I've helped with that.
Yeah.
There were times where, he would get annoyed with some things that I would do on stage, just kind of joking around or whatever, but that's just me. And I think he realized I'm not going to change him. That's who he is. And then there were times where, I'd make him laugh hysterically on stage and the crowd would go nuts, and you know what I mean? And now it's like we play good cop, bad cop a lot.
Right.
Like on purpose.
Yeah.
Like especially when we do the acoustic trio or duo, like, he knows that if he serves up a fastball and says anything like, even mentions another artist's name or whatever, he knows I'll break into it.
You're going to break into it, yeah.
And then he'll act like he's really like, are you serious, dude? Really? You're going to do that right now? And then I'm like, sorry, man, I can't, it just becomes this comedic thing that the fans love.
That's always my favorite thing with artists, when they can tear the wall down and be funny in between songs. And then it gives the songs more weight because you're playing something that's deep and introspective, and then you're back to being, goofballs.
There's a clip on my Facebook page you have to go to. I think I put it up there, and it was a trio show that we did kind of recently. I'd say maybe a year ago at the most.
Right.
And I don't remember where we were, but somehow it was Brian on acoustic guitar, Chris, and then myself. Brian starts playing something, and I think it was like the theme from Airwolf or something. He was like, "Da-na-na," like something on the guitar or whatever. And Chris and Brian are arguing about what it is. And Brian's like, "That's the main riff." Chris like, "No, it isn't. That's a different song." And it sounded like Cocaine to me from Clapton.
Yeah.
And I was like, "That's Cocaine." And like, so the three of us are having this discussion on stage in front of like 3,000 people in a theater,
right?
About, and every crowd's laughing.
Yeah, right.
And so Chris is very funny. Chris says, like, his banter's great. And he's like, whatever, that's a whole other song. I don't know who flipped the script here. We're getting off on a tangent, but, these folks are going to leave. We're going to be standing up here playing for no... Like, he's just really funny like that.
Yeah.
And so all of a sudden, people in the audience start yelling out different TV shows or whatever. And then Chris is looking at Brian going, play Miami Vice. Like, he's kind of like, and Brian's just like screwing around. He's like, yeah, that's what I thought. Like they're going back and forth, kind of like trying to stump each other. And I'm just sitting there off to the side. And all of a sudden, loud as day, some guy in the audience goes, "Love Boat," right? And Chris is kind of like, yeah. Anyway, so this night, and I break. I mean, when I break into it, I was like, I owned it. Love, exciting and new, playing all those corny chords.
Did you sing it too?
Oh yeah, come aboard, and the crowd starts going crazy. We're expecting you, and then Chris is like, "Give it up," and I just I went into the whole thing, not the whole thing, but the whole chorus, and he almost falls off his chair. He's dying. The crowd's going crazy, and I'm just sitting there like, sorry, don't mess with me. You called it out. I'm going to do it.
Oh, I remember there was a gig we played when I was sick as a dog.
I remember that.
And you came and jumped on the gig, and I think you carried the whole thing because I could barely sing a note that night. And
he's lying.
Wow, dude, that's always bad. And you did that with Uncle Plum a lot too, where it was
fun.
like you could just somebody could call a song out, and they did, and you just break into it. You know
those piano gigs, like the dueling piano bars, like in Vegas and stuff like that. I was always like, I want to do that because it's so much fun.
Well, what's always surprised me is like, how the fuck do you know these things? Like, you're like, I never played it before, but it's something like this. You know, like, I don't know.
Yeah. It's a gene that it's honestly what it is. Like, you know, like Chris is an incredible artist. Like, he can look at you and draw a perfect portrait and it'll look just like you.
Really?
I can't do that.
Yeah.
It would look terrible. It wouldn't look like anything.
Right.
But if there's a song that I've heard, especially like popular music that you hear on the radio a lot or whatever, I kind of can just figure it out.
Right.
And again, I think it's just a gene.
And that's why you got the gig.
That's why I do what I do right now. But
take a trip on over to elviofernandes.com.
God.
So, what are some of the favorite things that have happened since you've joined the band? Like, I know you've done a lot of really cool and crazy things. If you had to pick like two moments where, I mean, can you pick two?
I can definitely. Yeah, I think I can. The first moment was the very first TV performance that and this was literally 2 weeks after I started rehearsing with them.
Right.
Like, I literally started rehearsing with them, and I'm still not even really comfortable, you know, just with everything that's going on.
Yeah.
And I'm still the outsider.
Right.
Oh, by the way, dude, we got to fly to L.A. because we are going to debut our new single on American Idol live on TV. I'm like, oh, okay. So, you know, I'm like, this is cool, awesome. And then you do it.
No
and
pressure.
You get there. Yeah. And it was pretty awesome because, like, we got to meet Randy Jackson, and we got to meet, who's the other? It was Keith Urban, Randy. We met Harry Connick Jr., Steven Tyler.
Yeah.
It was, oh, wait, no, hold on a second. Steven Tyler we played on Idol twice. I'm confusing the story.
Okay.
The first time we played on Idol.
Right.
It was Steven Tyler, J-Lo.
Right.
And Randy Jackson.
Yeah.
Yeah,
okay.
So we get there, and you know, I'm like taking pictures of everything because I can't, you know, just the dressing room door, Daughtry, taking a picture of that. Whoa, cool, you know. And so Chris is like, hey, I'm gonna go say hi to Randy. You want to come with me? I was like, yeah, sure. So we go out in the parking lot, and Randy Jackson comes up, and Randy's being Randy. Like, that's what he is.
That's who he is.
Yo, dog, like the whole thing. That's how he is.
Right.
And so he introduces me, and we're talking, and there's all these like weird motorcycles, like 4 of them, like the 3-wheelers, but they're all like decked out in this. And we're like, whose are these?
Right.
He's like, oh, those are Steven's. Let's go say hi to him. I was like, oh my God. Bro, like I said, I've been there 2 weeks.
Yeah.
You know, we walk into Steven Tyler's trailer.
Yeah.
And it's like these beautiful rugs everywhere, and like this mannequins, and it was the oddest thing. Mannequins. Hot chick mannequins. I swear to God. It was odd. But he comes out, and what a cool guy.
Yeah, that's what I've heard that.
We were with him for an hour, and he was playing us the whole new Aerosmith record.
Yeah.
And he's like putting his arm around me going, you do the harmonies, right? Check out this harmony right here. And he's like singing it to me. And I'm just looking at Chris going, really?
Yeah, right.
Really? Like, he's got his arm around me singing harmonies to Aerosmith. This is Steven Tyler.
Sure.
It's weird. 2 weeks ago, I was, you know, playing at Slammers in Greece. You know, like, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Nobody knows what that means, but it's a
okay.
local Rochester reference. It's a little shithole bar.
Sounds like a great place.
It was awesome. So then we did the show, and I'm like, all right, you know, not much pressure on me. I'm off to the back here next to the drums. It's all about Chris. You know, just do your thing. Just play the song.
Right.
And I did. And apparently the camera guy had me on camera a lot.
Yeah.
And I didn't realize it, but I came back to the dressing room, and my phone, I'll never forget, it was like 76 new messages.
Yeah.
And I'm just reading through them, and I lost it. It was so overwhelming, because at that point I realized, like, I'm doing some crazy stuff. This is insane.
Yeah.
I just played live in front of millions of people.
Right.
And met Steven Tyler.
Yeah.
And people are telling me that, like, I was all over the camera, and it was like, I was like, really?
Yeah.
Wow. So I went in the bathroom and just lost it. That was the first like real moment where I was like,
Sure.
this is pretty cool.
Well, it's emotional, man, because like, I mean, you and I think
worked
are the,
hard.
Well, yeah, you and I are, I think, the last guys standing of our crew of people, because we kind of came up through like not really in the same scene per se. I think we were just ahead of the stuff that you did. With were you Nick and the Nice Guys?
No,
or
it was the very first band I was ever in was a local wedding band. We did some traveling, but it was called East Coast Connection.
Oh, East Coast Connection. That's right.
Yeah.
Well, I remember when that whole thing kind of started. And
Yeah.
I mean, how many years now has it been since we've been doing this? So yeah, it's
My
emotional.
God.
I think I had a similar experience, nowhere near the level of what you've been doing, but when I played the Grand Ole Opry for the first time, I
Oh,
think
my God.
I know I texted you right away, and I was like, "Is it normal to be a bawling mess?"
Yeah.
The day after,
Yes, it
like
is.
didn't know how to be, and you were like, "Yep, that's the same thing happened."
I remember
So-
that day. I remember we played Ryman. Yeah, it was just crazy.
Yeah.
I was like, wow, but so that American Idol was the first one.
Yeah.
I think the other one, but probably my favorite gig that we've ever done, literally it was spiritual, was Red Rocks.
Ah, yeah.
Red Rocks was incredible. It was sold out. It was like 10,000 people, and that venue is the most beautiful live music venue you'll ever see.
Sure.
And the history there, and I mean, it was just it was incredible. That was all. I mean, it's hard to pick too, because I could go on and say the USO tour I just did a couple of weeks ago was one of the most life-changing things I've ever done.
Where all did you go for that?
We went to in 6 days. We went to Sicily, Italy, Djibouti, which is in Africa, Bahrain, Afghanistan, and Germany.
Yeah.
And that was absolutely life-changing, to a point where I told the people of the USO, the organizers and everything, I'm in every year. As long as I can do it,
Yeah.
I will continue to do it.
Right.
Yeah, it was
Chris has
incredible.
always been really involved with that, hasn't he? For a long time. I knew that.
We've done a lot of military shows.
Yeah.
We did a bunch of shows in Japan last year, all at military bases. And in the States, we do a lot.
Right.
So it's important. They need it.
Yeah.
But this recent one was just incredible.
Yeah. So has being in this band changed your worldview at all? Like, I mean, I know you've had a lot of weird experiences, and I mean, for people listening, we've been friends for a long time. So like, I get every now and again I get a random FaceTime from you. Like, I'm in Dublin, Ireland.
No, my favorite city of all time. Actually,
it's great, isn't it?
Love that city. That was my favorite city on the European tour.
But like, what's changed? I mean, because obviously, doing all that stuff it changes you in some way. Like, has it changed anything for you? I mean, outside of the obvious things.
Yeah, you appreciate things much more because, when you're in your little bubble here and you're not traveling all over the place and you're just kind of used to, everyday life in Rochester, New York.
Yeah.
It being able to see other cultures and see how universal the power of music is.
Yeah.
That to me is insane.
Right.
And I would say even, and this is not a knock on the United States, but here in our, in this country, we have a lot of options. Mm-hmm. And with all the technology and everything, and this technology exists in other parts of the world, but I think Americans, we just are very, what can I say? Very, like our attention span is on to the next thing, on to the next thing, on to the next thing.
Sure.
When we play Europe, the fans seem way more invested and way more passionate about. I feel like they stay with you, and the response is always. I can't believe how, the crowds are and how they respond to us. In parts of the country, I would have never even thought we were.
Well, you were saying
big
something about stepping off the bus in Italy or something like that. They're like, "Hey, ciao, Elvio."
Oh my God! Yeah, like really? I mean, so we're playing. It was in Milan, and we're doing our Europe tour, and we're on a double-decker tour bus. That's how they tour over there. Every band is in the same. It's the same kind of bus.
Are they nice buses?
Yeah, they're very nice. Yeah. But there's 2 floors. First floor is the kitchen, lounge area. Second floor are the bedrooms. And oh yeah, I'm always like, this thing's gonna tip over. Oh God. But they don't, and they're great. The buses are awesome. They're always stocked with like a huge hard drive and like this amazing like sound system and flat screen. And the hard drive is just stocked with every movie, TV show you ever want to see. So it's like you just go through and it's awesome. Yeah.
Okay.
They must be like one company that, and they're called Beat the Street. I'm not kidding. Like on the side of the bus it says Beat the Street. And that's the company
bus
that everybody. Those are the buses that everybody uses when they tour over there. like we talked to the drivers and they'd be like, yeah, last week we had the Lady Gaga this bus. I'm like, oh, cool, sweet. So they all use the same bus.
Yeah.
Not same bus, same service.
Same
But
service, yeah.
I get off the bus. We're in Milan. And I'm walking to the dressing room. This is probably noon, maybe,
Right.
11 o'clock. And there's this whole group of girls that are like on the other side of the fence right near the bus. And they're all like, oh, ciao, Elvio, come over here, Elvio. I'm like, how do you know my name? That's
Right.
weird.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, wait a minute, you idiot. There's this thing called the internet.
Yeah, right.
And they're fans, so that's how they figured it out, you know? But you just
Exactly.
don't expect that on the
Yeah.
other side of the world, you know?
Well, you never know where stuff ends up. It's like it's everywhere.
Yeah. And so I proceeded to tell them the only phrase I know. Well, not the only phrase, but the coolest phrase I know in Italian. And
Which is?
It's the very first thing I ever learned, and it's amazing. My Italian friend told me, and the translation is this: if I go there, I'll grab you by the ass, throw you against the wall, and leave you there. I swear to God, I can't make it up. That's exactly what that translates to. And I don't know why I ever learned it, but it just stuck in my head.
You gotta tell me what it is.
So what? The best, coolest thing you can say to a group of girls: if I come there, grab you by the ass, and throw you against the wall, I'll leave you there.
Leave you there.
So of course I did that, and they laughed. They loved it.
What is it? What is it? How do you say it?
This is how you say it. Si vengo lì, t'acchiappa al culo, ti sbatto al muro e te lascio lì. And I did it with that, just like Don Corleone with the.
What was their response?
They were dying, laughing hysterically, and they're like, "That's good. You sound just like Italian." You know, they were so. I'm a jackass when it comes to that stuff.
Yeah, that's all right though.
But
That's why we're friends.
But it's exactly. But that was.
Oh man, that's awesome.
But yeah, that's probably the just seeing how in other countries how they respond to you and how they know so much and they're so passionate. Russia was weird. I ain't gonna lie.
Was it?
Yeah.
How so?
Because they don't smile there.
At all?
I don't think I saw one person smile. I mean, it was freezing when we were there, so that's probably why.
Yeah.
But they loved us. But like the reaction. Well, first of all, when we played in Moscow, and the very last song we closed with "Home," and I'll never forget. Everyone in the audience pulled out these American flags, like these little paper American flags.
Really?
And we're holding them up.
Oh crap!
While we were doing "Home,"
Yeah.
I was like, "Whoa, this is crazy!" And it was pretty emotional. Actually, it was pretty awesome.
I bet.
But you get done with the show and they're like straight faced. In the meet and greet line, they're like, "Your band was great. Love you, the best." I'm like, "Dude, smile." I mean, they were polite, but they just I don't know. It's a different culture.
Yeah.
Japan's very reserved too.
Yeah, I've heard that they'll clap like crazy, but then it's quiet.
Yeah,
'Cause they're-
and you think they hate you, and
Yeah.
they're like, "No, you guys are great." They love you. I was like, all right, I guess they don't get crazy.
Yeah. So you've done some production for Chris now too.
Yeah.
How did that kind of come about, or like what? I mean, was it just because he trusted you enough to kind of give you the reins with that?
Kind of, yeah. We work when we're on the road, when we're touring. I always bring with me a mobile recording rig.
Mm-hmm.
So we're always writing, producing, and I mean, I have a hard drive filled with ideas that have gone nowhere, and I have some complete full songs that we've done that I think are great songs, and just they haven't found a home yet.
Right.
You know what I mean? But we're always working. So that trust and that relationship was pretty solid right from the time I got crazy on the
Sure.
third record.
Yeah.
I mean, he trusted me in that regard. And Brian, our rhythm guitar player, he owns a recording studio in Charlottesville, and he's a great producer and great writer. So we're always Josh Paul too, our bass player. He got Logic and GarageBand, and
Yeah.
Josh is the guy that doesn't know much about gear, but it doesn't matter because his ear is ridiculous and everything he does sounds good. It's like, how do you don't even know what you're doing and it still sounds amazing,
Yeah.
But so we're always working. What was the question? Where were we going with this? I just lost.
The production stuff. Yeah.
So, the fourth record was a record called Baptized, and that was a risky but necessary step that we needed to take because the format of Hot AC changed.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there was a point where on any Hot AC station, you couldn't go 5 minutes without hearing Daughtry, Three Doors Down,
Yeah.
Foo Fighters,
Right.
rock bands,
Yeah.
and then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, on Hot AC, you're hearing Katy Perry, Lady Gaga.
Yeah.
It changed. So bands like us weren't getting love on the radio.
Right.
And in this business, if you're not getting love on the radio, it's tough to really do anything. You know,
Right.
I mean, we have enough singles that we could always play, but you really want to try to get love on the radio.
Yeah,
You know?
yeah.
I mean, it
Right.
helps everything.
Right.
So the label was basically saying, hey, you kind of need to change your sound a little bit. I mean, Maroon 5 comes to mind. Talk about changing your sound. I mean, they went from a rock band to, wow, you know, like that's top 40.
Yeah.
So they wanted us to do that. And they basically had Chris write with and work with the latest pop producers that were doing well at the time, who were very talented and they're great.
Right.
Like Martin Johnson and Sam Hollander, they wrote a bunch of songs. And, you know, I loved them. I thought they did a hell of a job. But I think it was confusing and difficult for the public to see us as that kind of band.
Right.
You know what I mean? So we were kind of fighting an uphill battle a little bit.
Right.
But Waiting for Superman was the first single, and that did extremely well.
Well, you guys, it worked seamlessly in the show. I mean, it wasn't weird when you did the new songs versus the old stuff.
We tried to purposely, during the show, put our stamp on those. You know what I mean? So they weren't exactly like the record. They still had an edge to them.
Sure.
But it's a, you know, it was a tough time for bands like us, you know, to get love, like I said. So, but on that record, I had a song that I co-wrote and produced, which was called Witness. And basically, I mean, I can't even make this up, but this is how that song came about. I was in Foot Locker. It actually sounds funny, but it's the truth. I'm not gonna lie.
Okay.
I was in Foot Locker, and
I go there every day about noon.
sitting there. I needed to buy some new kicks. You know what I'm saying? My kicks was old, so I look and I see on the wall there's this huge poster of LeBron James, and LeBron's motto, like his thing, is witness.
Right.
And in big letters on the poster says witness. And I'm like, just looking at it, I was like, man, that's powerful. That's a powerful word. Like, that would be a great song title.
Right.
So I went back to my house here in Rochester. We were off tour at the time. And I just started creating this music. And I was like, in my mind, I'm like, I want it to be a little gospel-ish, but pop. You know, keep the pop sensibility in the production. So I just started creating this piece of music that was that. And I sent it to Chris. And I was like, the song's going to be called Witness. And here's the music, and we kind of talked about it a little bit, and I said, run with it. Yeah. So at the time, he was writing with Claude Kelly, who is a monster. Claude wrote Party in the USA for Miley Cyrus. He wrote Whitney Houston songs. He was in the pop world. He won BMI Songwriter of the Year, I think, in 2000, whatever. He's insane. So he heard the track, and he was like, this is sick. We're writing to this. Yeah. And I was like, oh, cool. And I remember Chris sending me a text, hey, Claude just heard the track. He loves it. Do you mind if we write on it?
Let me think. No.
Hold on. Let me think about this for a second. Yes, go ahead, please.
Yeah, right.
So that ended up being the song Witness. And I remember getting it back and literally, with my headphones on, tearing up. Like, I couldn't believe.
That's a great song.
How great it was. Thank you. But it was a perfect combination. You know, the three of us together on that song. Just, you know, they did what I wouldn't have done, and I gave them music they would have never done. You know what I mean?
Sure. Yeah.
So, and I remember filling out the paperwork. Like, Sony sends you all this paperwork as a producer. Like, which studio did you record this in? I recorded it in my spare bedroom upstairs with headphones. Right. So I wrote Spare Bedroom Studios, and that's still on the record. If you buy the record, it says produced at Spare Bedroom Studios.
So stuff you did in your spare bedroom actually ended up on the final track.
So for all you gearheads out there, they were like, dude, you got to have like an 1176, and you got to go to a studio and have Apogee converters and blah, 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 blah.
Yeah, no.
No, you don't.
Nope.
I had headphones, a laptop, Pro Tools, and a little controller, and that's all you needed.
Yeah.
Because, you know, at the end of the day, it really doesn't matter. The crowd doesn't hear it. The audience could care less what preamp you used, blah, 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 blah.
I think sometimes people would rather hear a shitty recording of a good song than a great recording of a shitty song.
Yeah. But, you know, at the end of the day, the way technology is now, I mean, you know, we had Serban Gane mix it, who he's done. If you look at every great pop song that's on the radio, he's probably mixed 90% of them. Yeah. He made it sound amazing. Right. You know, and you know, mixing and mastering, at the end of the day, it doesn't matter where you record. I mean, it matters a little bit, but as long as you're not an idiot and you record, you know, somewhat smart.
Well, as long as you recorded in a nice swanky studio like we're sitting in right now. Like spare bedroom studios.
So I produced that, and then we did another version of that song, a stripped down, just piano vocal version, which I loved, and we played live for a while, and fans really seemed to love it. To this day, I really wish it would have gotten released as a single, because I thought it's my favorite vocal performance that Chris has ever done.
Yeah.
And it was really passionate, and it's a great message. I mean, I can't tell you how many tweets and emails I get from people all over the world saying that song helped me through a rough time.
I think people forget how great he really is.
He's an incredible singer.
It's an incredible singer.
Yeah. In the studio especially. I mean, he's great live, but in the studio, he's a machine.
Yeah.
He's so good.
I bet.
And,
you have to be, man. Otherwise, you don't have. That's what I was trying to tell my dad the other night. He I guess he went to see Willie Nelson last year, and my dad's never really been a big country fan. But after the show, he was like, "Wow, he's really." My dad's a jazz guy, so he was like, "Wow, it was more like country jazz than anything I really heard." And
Willie's no joke.
Well, I'm like, you don't, and I think that holds true for a lot of people in the music industry. You don't have a career that lasts a long time unless you deliver the goods.
Yep.
And sometimes it's happened for me where I've gone to see somebody that I wouldn't have ordinarily went to see.
Yeah.
And it really kind of it's always hit me about halfway through the show you go, well, that's why that person is who they are. I just saw Chris Cornell acoustic recently, and it was like best singer I've ever seen in my life. And after the show, I was like, well, that guy's had a 20, 30 year career because he's that good.
There's a reason why. And he's got and Chris has the same thing. The hardest thing you and I are singers. The hardest thing to do. And it's not something you can learn, really. It's just either you have it or you don't, is to have a voice that as soon as somebody hears one note, they know who that is.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that's hard to do.
Instantly identifiable. Instantly.
Yeah, Chris Cornell, he sings one line, that's Chris Cornell.
Right, yeah.
Chris Daughtry is the same way. When I hear him sing, I'm like, that's Chris. I mean, and actually that's difficult sometimes when we're like writing songs to pitch to other artists. When he sings them, that's intimidating for the other artist to be like, that sounds like that's Chris Daughtry.
Yeah.
You almost, for that situation, you almost want like a very safe, plain voice on there so the artist doesn't get intimidated.
Right, exactly.
And you know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
It's hard because you got to live up to that. But there's not many artists that have that, these days. And I think, Chris is definitely one that does. When you hear that voice, you're like, oh, I know who that is.
Yeah.
I mean, Adam Levine kind of, it's Adam.
No,
he's got
his
distinct
He's got a really
thing.
unique voice, yeah.
Gavin DeGraw's kind of got a thing going. Pat Monahan from Train. We've done a lot of shows.
Another one of the best singers I've ever seen.
Some of my favorite.
Oh, you done shows with them?
We've done probably 10 shows with them.
Yeah.
I mean, we know them like brothers. You know what I mean? We always see them. And when we played with them, they were just so gracious. Pat would come up on stage. This is when we were doing our acoustic thing. It was in December of last year. And so it was just me, Chris, and Brian. And Pat would come up on stage and do Home with us.
Oh, yeah.
And, I got my in-ears in.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden the second verse comes in, and it's not Chris. It's Pat. Miles again. And I was just like, oh, my God. That's Pat Monahan in my ears, loud, and it sounds amazing.
Yeah.
So those are a lot of pinch me moments for me.
Sure.
Is getting to, play on stage and sing harmony with guys that I looked up to so much as a kid.
Right, yeah,
Ed
exactly.
Kowalczyk from Live.
Okay,
Ed Kowalczyk's played with us 3 or 4 times, and this is the most nerve-wracking experience that I ever had in the 4 years of being in Daughtry. It has something to do with that. So I know I'm going off on a tangent.
No, that's fine.
I think it's a decent story, but
that's why we're here. They're all anything goes.
So we're playing at Jones Beach, which is have you ever been there?
I've been there, yeah.
Incredible venue.
Yeah.
It's on the water.
Long Island. Yep.
Playing at Jones Beach. It was we were on tour with 3 Doors Down at the time, and we're getting ready to do sound check. This is about, I don't know, half hour before sound check. And Chris goes, by the way, Ed's coming tonight. I'm like, Ed? He's like, Ed Kowalczyk from Live. I'm like, oh, cool, awesome. And he wants to come up on stage and do a song with us. So he wants to do Overcome. And I was like, I don't know Overcome. I don't think I've ever heard it. I know like I Alone. I know like Throwing Copper, the greatest hits, right. I guess.
Yeah.
And I'm like, Overcome. He's like, well, you better listen to it because it's all piano and it's just going to be me, you, and him on stage. This is a half hour before sound check.
Oh, God, yeah.
And we're going to check it.
Sure, right.
I'm like, so going back to that conversation we had about playing by ear and kind of winging stuff.
Right.
There's the perfect example where the man upstairs was looking out for me, and thank God I had that because there's no sheet music. There's no.
Right.
I literally grabbed my phone and had it up to my ear, and I was listening to the song, and I think I got to listen to it 2 or 3 times before we had to do sound check. Like, I just kept repeating it, and I got it enough to where it was recognizable to me. You know?
Right.
And we went on stage and did it in sound check, and it went great. You
Yeah.
know, and I was like, oh, cool. You know, sound check's one thing because
Well,
there's
then
only crew and
Yeah.
people that work at the venue there.
Yeah.
Now comes showtime.
Good God, man. I'm getting sweating just thinking about it because
There were 9,800 people there, and Ed Kowalczyk comes out. Crowd starts going crazy, and it's just me, Chris, and Ed. And I'm like, don't fuck this up. For those of you kids or Christians listening out there, I apologize, but right now that's the only word that I could use in that situation. All right, don't screw this up. I could have said that.
that's okay.
So, and I just played it, and it was like an out-of-body experience.
Yeah.
Like him singing that voice
Yeah,
that we
right.
grew up with.
Yeah.
You know, like, oh my
Sure.
God. And it went off great. And then at the end of the show, he came up to me and he gave me a hug. He's like, dude, he goes, I've played that song with orchestras. I've played it with, piano played, all different. He goes, that's the best that's ever felt. And
Wow.
to hear that from him, I was
Wow,
like,
that's crazy. Yeah.
dude, thank you so much. It
Yeah.
means a lot. And to this day, I mean, he just sent me a text a couple days ago, Merry Christmas, bro. And, we stay in contact via text,
yeah.
things like that.
That's great,
just,
man. Yeah.
It's awesome. But that was one of those moments where I was like, man, this could go really bad.
Right.
And with social media, it could go really bad.
It could go really bad. Yeah. Well, that's nerve wracking too. Like, anything that you do is out there seconds after you do it.
Yeah.
So
Yes.
yeah.
That is true.
So don't suck.
That is true.
So what do you got for the future? You guys are working on a new record. Mm-hmm. Are you going to be doing any production work for that, or are you going to be involved in that? And
I produced a potential song that they like. If it doesn't go on I think the next record we're going to do is a greatest hits album that's going to come out. Hopefully, what I've been told, first quarter of 2016, with a few new songs on it.
Uh-huh.
Whether that one is going to be on that, we're not sure, but probably on the next record at least. You know what I mean? So,
how many songs get written typically for a record, and how many they whittle it down to 11 or 12 from how many?
I think it varies. I think the plan for this next record is to write 20 to 30 probably, and then pick the best 11 or 12. But I think it depends on the artist, depends on the situation. But usually, I would say 20. I know I was reading an article for the new Adele record, and she wrote a bunch of songs with some heavy hitters.
Sure.
That didn't make the record.
I think most people don't realize that you got to write a lot of songs to get a few good ones.
It's not easy to write a good song.
No, it's not fucking
easy. It really
easy.
isn't. It's not easy to write a hit song. It's not easy to write a good song. It's very, very difficult.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, so Sia, who is a huge writer, and she's the girl that sang Chandelier, for those of you keeping score at home.
Standing in the corner.
Yeah. She's an incredible writer. She was a writer before she was even an artist. And I read an article saying that she wrote a bunch of songs with Adele that she loved and couldn't believe didn't make the Adele record.
Yeah.
So I think this is brilliant. Sia's next record, she's doing a record that are only going to have the songs that she wrote for other artists that felt in her heart were hits that didn't make it.
Really?
So her next record is going to be songs she wrote for Adele, songs she wrote for this person or that person that she in her heart feels are hits.
Yeah.
So that actually would be a cool experiment.
It's probably
because if they do become hits, she's got the last laugh.
She's another great one.
She's incredible.
Yeah, another great one.
But,
well, dude, we're coming up on an hour now, so man, thank you.
You know me, I'll talk forever.
Yeah, dude. I guess in closing, just I'm proud of everything you've done, and there's a lot of us that are proud of everything you've done. No, I'm not. I'll make you cry. We get the whole scope of emotions here on this podcast. We get you laughing at first, but then we finish up, we cry, maybe a little hug, maybe a little cuddle.
Cue the piano music with reverb in the background.
Exactly. But seriously, so proud of you, man.
Thank you.
Thanks for taking
you too, man. Listen, this ain't all about me. This guy that's doing these podcasts is honestly this is the truth. This is a guy that I've looked up to for a long time, and no, it's true. As a songwriter, and I know that you're Johnny Sideman right now, and that's what you're focused on. Because I saw one of your tweets to somebody, you're like, I'm just focusing on the sideman thing right now. That's bullshit. Okay? You can be a sideman, but don't stop writing and don't stop doing what you do because, honestly, you inspired a ton of people, including me.
Thanks,
so
dude.
don't just resort to the I'll play
I appreciate it.
sideman.
Well, there's a record coming. I may be calling you on that. Well,
That's fine.
I might come here to Spare Bedroom Studios and do some work.
That's fine. My lawyer will talk to your lawyer. We'll get all the details.
We don't need
It'll be great.
we don't need no life drums.
No. Life drums. You don't need it.
Dude, I love you, man. Thanks
You too, brother.
for taking the time.
Anytime.
Hopefully you guys liked that conversation. I had a blast that morning with Elvio, and hopefully the rest of the podcast I do will be that effortless. Do me a favor, if you listened to the show today and you liked it, please subscribe on iTunes and leave a review if you're so inclined. Also, follow me on Twitter at Michael J Music. That's MICHAEL letter J MUSIC. We also have a Facebook page. Please give us a like there, and please spread the word to your friends or relatives or anyone else you think might enjoy it. Without you, there's only me in a room talking to myself, possibly in my underwear, possibly naked, maybe wearing extra clothes. I don't know. Keep the emails coming too. TIOpod@fastmail.com. That's TIOpod@fastmail.com. And lastly, we have a PayPal donation button on our homepage at TIOpod.com, and also a link to our GoFundMe page. We need some cash to get some better equipment, damn it. We've raised a whopping $45. Yes, $45 fucking dollars. It's hilarious. I mentioned in the last podcast that I'm going to match every dollar donated and give it to a charity of my friend Ken Block, the singer of Sister Hazel's choosing. We'll probably cap that sometime in February or early March, so do me a favor, give us a couple bucks, for God's sake. You don't have to donate, but every little bit helps, and you'll not only be helping us get some better equipment, but you'll also be helping some folks in need. Ken is very involved with charity, has a lot of people he's hooked up with, so I'm sure he'll choose to give it to people who are very much in need of it. If everyone who listens to this even gives $2, maybe we can get past the $45 mark. We're shooting for $47 by the next show. Anyway, I've got some very exciting guests coming your way in the future, and I'll catch you next time here on Turn It On. Once again, my name is Michael J. Thank you again so much for listening.